Hello, everybody. I hope you're okay. I've been struggling, as usual. Anyway, I said a couple of videos back that I was going to talk about being on the edge of a cult, and some of you were quite interested in hearing about it. So, thanks for that. It's taken me a while to sort of figure out how to talk about this. I can't organise my thoughts because I don't have words in my head. I only have words once they come out of my mouth, so I can't think in words. That's one of the reasons, and I have memory issues. I have memories, but they're not accessible to me, unless I'm talking about them or writing about them, and I can't write because I've got writer's block. Anyway, get to the point. I thought I could just structure this by how it started, a bit about what it was like, and how it ended. So I'll try not to go into too much detail about absolutely everything, because I just want to tell you everything, and there's a lot of it, so that's quite overwhelming for me because the reasons I just said. This morning, actually I'm annoyed because yesterday I got a little bit of clarity that I was ready to start talking about this on a video for you. And I thought to myself that I would do the video today by being outside somewhere beautiful in the sunshine. And I can't now because it's raining, and I'm not allergic to rain, but I couldn't sort of have my phone record myself and it would get wet. I mean, I couldn't sort of juggle these different factors. So I was annoyed, and then I realised that was significant because I am angry. I'm really angry. I've always been really, really angry. I don't think I was born angry, but I was very, very angry when I was below the age of 2. And I've never been able to let it out. I've never had a go at anybody, ever. Ever. I've never had a go at somebody. So when I say I'm very angry, my anger is so strong, it's like the earth. You might be able to relate to this if you have this kind of anger which is so strong, it feels like the earth itself. It's so big. It's so massive. You know, how on earth can that be unleashed? And it needs to be unleashed through my voice. And that part of me it's been missing most of my life. I'm what's called selective mute, but it's not selective on purpose. So another word for that is reactive mute, when someone's been through trauma and then they can't use their voice to speak. I've been a mute most of my life. I still have the problem with it. Even though now I can talk a lot of the time, I still can't talk. And the angry parts of me, I think maybe that's a majority of me and it's suppressed. So that's a problem because I need to actually start being that and start expressing that so that I can be here, because I'm only a tiny bit here. I'm a sliver, not a slither. I'm a sliver of a person. Only the good bit of me is here, and everything else, which falls into different categories. I'm not saying it's not good exactly, but it's like, you know, anger and fear and sadness and pain. That's not here. It doesn't know how to come back. And this was one of the reasons that I got involved in the cult. What happened was, I was home educating one of my children at the time. I went on a Facebook group. I was on Facebook back then, and said, I made a comment and somebody replied with a very interesting response. So I contacted this lady who'd replied, and we were messaging. It was about 11 p.m. one night, that's really late for me because I'm a morning person. So it was this kind of like really spooky, bizarre thing that, when you're just following your instinct, and I was just messaging with this lady, and it was kind of like unplanned, and on my part at least. She said, by the way, and she was sort of like very gentle about the way she proposed this to me, but she said, I'm starting a women's group to deal with anger, to help like start expressing our anger. I'd been looking for something like this for a while. I'd been actively researching anger management and courses to express your anger, and I found things that cost thousands of pounds, or things that were designed for sort of like male perpetrators of violence, which I'm not male and I'm not violent. Not that it said that on the tin, but that was going to be the clientele, and I didn't want to turn up somewhere like that because I'm a very vulnerable kind of like I'm like I'd be like prey in there, and I wouldn't realise. So she said, I'm doing this course and it's called Raging Mothers, and she sent me the like little flyer, like an electronic flyer, and it was just amazing. It was exactly what I wanted to do, and it was starting the next day. But what I didn't realise at the time was that she must have been on there because she was getting paid for this. I paid her like, it wasn't very much, but it was like 200 quid or something to join the course. So she'd said to me, like, she must have probably been on there looking for people to try and join her course because it wasn't full up yet. But I never realised that until the other week when I was telling you lot that I was on the edge of a cult. So she basically like poached me, or what would you call it? And I joined this group call the next day. And so I've noted down some of the reasons that I was interested, but I couldn't, it was a bit overwhelming to lay them all out nicely. So I don't know, let's just see if we can figure this out. So express truth. This is something I've always wanted to do because I've never felt able to do that in my life. And that's why I've been mute. The only time I speak is when I feel like I can say something and it is true. And if I'm not in an environment where I feel safe enough to speak, then I can't speak. I can't just waffle or make small talk. Right, I'm good at censoring myself. That's not the point right now. I'll try and remember to come back to that. Groups, right? So I love groups, but I'm rubbish at them because I'm dyslexic. I don't understand social interactions in the stereotypical way. I'm very idealistic, so I just think everybody's good and everybody will get along, and then I've got magical thinking going on about like how I can help everybody get along with each other or something, even though I can't, obviously. And I'd like to be a leader of a group, like a healing community. So yeah, groups has always been something that I love and I want, but I haven't really been able to partake in, I could say. I'm a good student. Yeah, that's a different section, right? And this is the other one, heart connection. I really want a real connection with people. I want to be able to express my truth, and I want to hear their truth. I want to support them. I want them to support me. Okay, so my unmet needs, express truth, be in a group, heart connections, exist. That sounds a bit funny, but what I meant there is, it's not funny at all. It's really sad. I don't feel like I exist. That's because there's only a tiny bit of me present, and the rest of me left my body when I was a very young age. So I only have this little bit of me, which is the good bit. Everything else, I'm not really here. I don't feel like I'm here. I don't feel my own body. I don't have interoception and proprioception in the way that others do. I'm in a dissociated state all the time. So that means it's almost impossible for me to look after myself because I don't realise that I need to eat. I need to, have rest. or stuff like that. Everything is outward. All my perception is of others, and not in a good way. I mean, it could be good for them, but not for me, because then I don't exist. And then, right, so now let's see what happened next. I joined the group call. It was, we were all women because it was the Raging Mothers thing, and it was dead good, but it was so scary. It was dead good in theory, but it was totally ridiculous. So it's based on this thing by Clinton Callahan, who's some cult leader. I don't know if he's not been outed, because if you Google it, it doesn't come up as a cult, as far as I could find. Because I thought, when I realised and kind of started to come out, even though I didn't join it as such, but I was like on the verge of it and benefiting from what they were doing, but without getting brainwashed enough to actually join, having joined it, thankfully. Then I Googled thinking like, oh, I'm sure people must be online saying like, watch out, this is a cult, but they weren't. And it's, what's it called? They've got all these like phrases that they've come up with. I might not be able to remember them right now, but I might try and, well, I don't want to hold myself to it, but I might try and do another video if I get around to it. They have all their own like phrases for things and language for things, and you have to say things in a certain way. That's why I said I'm good at censoring myself. As I just described, I'm a mute. I'm a selective mute. I'm really good at being careful what I say. It's like my bread and butter. Much as that makes my life so restricted and that I can't actually feel like I exist. So this group was offering the opportunity that we could go into our anger and actually feel it and express it. And it was brilliant, because that's what I've wanted for so long. I've recognised that I have that need for a few years, probably about 10 years, that I've known that I need to do this, but I didn't know where to go with it. You can't just kind of like learn how to be angry when you've suppressed it since the age of, being months old. And I couldn't learn. So, it was really good in the way that they showed us how to feel angry. I mean, I was there, obviously, well, we were all there with the purpose of actually going into our anger. So if someone didn't want to do that, then they wouldn't have joined the group, if you know what I mean. So I wanted to go into my anger and express that, and I couldn't get to it. And they were teaching us how, like, you started off, for example, can't really demonstrate this, but like, I'll try. You get like a towel or something in your hand and like go like that and just start to feel this like feeling coming up. It was so good because I don't feel things, and I could actually feel it. It's like, oh, I'm finding it. Like it is real. I could feel it in my core because I have all this anger, but it's not coming out because I'm scared of it, and I'm scared of how big it is, and I don't know how to let it come up. So I was starting to learn these like techniques. So this was like the wringing the towel thing, and then they're encouraging us to start making sounds even before we could find any words with it, like and like trying to be angry, like not trying to be angry exactly, but sort of like accessing it. It was really good. It's just what I wanted. And then like for say a minute or something. And stuff like that. And then we were supposed to do homework for the week of like practicing, but I didn't because I never do homework because I'm dyslexic, so I just forget. I'm dissociated. So anyway, I didn't get that benefit out of in between the sessions, but it was a really scary atmosphere in there though, because the other woman, right? So basically there were two women leading this group, co-hosts or co-something, can't remember what they called themselves. And the one that had poached me, I'll say poached, but that's probably not the right word. That makes it sound like she got me from a company or something. The one that had like brought me in, she was like the safer one to me, and the other one wasn't. She was called Hannah. She was like really scary. She started off like, when someone talks and then you get this tone, and if you've been brought up in an environment of judgment and criticism, you've got to effing be careful. Don't step out of line. It was like, we don't, like, laying down the rules of the group was like, we don't eat, we don't drink in the session, we don't this, that and the other. So it was basic needs, but you weren't supposed to do them in the session because that was supposed to disrespect the people who had given up their time to organise this group. But what was really ridiculous? I was going to say this a minute ago, then forgot. Apparently this Clinton Callahan, he's the first person that's come up with this like environment where nobody's the leader, we're all equal here. So whenever you ask something, like a clarifying question. And I ask a lot of those because, I'm like autistic and stuff. So I need to know exactly. I can't just like blag it. So whenever there was like someone asked a clarifying question, then they just bat it back to you like, oh, you know this, or like, oh, what do you think? But you don't know because you're not the leader of the group. There is a clear leader. The two of them are the leaders of the group. But then whenever it's inconvenient to be leader of the group, they're like, there's no leader here. We're all equal. It was just a total joke because you can't really run. They had the knowledge and information about how they were running the session and what we were doing. But they denied being the leader of the group and they said that they were like us. It was just totally hypocritical, but they didn't seem to see that. It's kind of like funny how people can buy into things that are so illogical. And they thought it was dead great that like he'd supposedly invented this system where nobody was the leader. We're all equal. It was a total lie. And yeah, let me think where to go next with this. So anyway, I did this course for a few weeks and it was really good for me and it was helpful for me. And I started to like take that little bit of 1 hour for myself once a week because I didn't have that before because of being too dissociated that I couldn't give myself 1 hour. Like if you think of someone as like a caretaker, like a carer for somebody and they're looking after them 24/7. I'm like that all the time, even if there's no one else to look after. I don't think about myself and it's not a good thing. It's like I forget. It's not like I do. I don't realise that I'm here and that I'm the one I'm supposed to look after myself. So it's difficult for me being an adult. So having this like 1 hour a week, or might have even been 2 hours of the course once a week, it was like my time. So that was a really positive thing. And then I was learning these anger techniques and how to start expressing things. I wouldn't say I got to the level where I was actually able to say things that I was angry about, but I do feel like I have some understanding and knowledge of how I could get to it if I can find environments where it's not a cult and I'm allowed to like express my anger or my like real feelings. So then she told me at some point that, by the way, I'm holding a weekly women's, or it might have been when it finished, I can't remember, women's like heart space or something, where we can all share from our heart if you're interested, and it's free. So this was brilliant for me. Again, the groups thing. So I was like, yay, and everything. So I used to go to that once a week and it was a group call and we used to take it in turns to share something. And you got to, cry or whatever it was. It wasn't just about anger. So whatever you were feeling, they knew how to help you go into it somatically. She knew how. So these people are like really into kind of like somatic stuff, and they must have learned it like through the cult teachings, which I never actually went into myself because I haven't got the books. You can't get them unless you buy it through them. They could look at you and then they could be like, something's coming up. What are you feeling now? So for me, because I didn't know that about myself, if I'm feeling something, I'm not tuned into myself enough in a way that I could share with someone else because of my upbringing. So then they would be able to help you with that and say like, what is coming up? And then you would find out, oh, there's tears coming down my face. And then I would realise like, oh, I feel sad. Like I never knew that. I've never felt these things before. Like I didn't know how to do that. So I was learning these really, really amazing skills that they're basic, but for someone like me, they're really, really the difference between feeling like I'm alive and feeling like I don't exist. So I was learning these things, and then the group went along week by week. But then what I realised one week, certain things you're not allowed to talk about. So yeah, where do I go? So you know how this goes. No, I don't. So if you asked a question, then you used to get told, well, you already know this. And then one week I got asked, do you still believe in God? Which I thought was an overstep because I'd just mentioned God. Ignore certain things spoken. So sometimes like I would say something, and as I say, I'm expressing my truth. So I would say something about myself or my experience or my life. And then it would just be ignored as if that word hadn't been used or that thing hadn't been said. And that is kind of, it was like a kind of thought control that they were putting onto people. And then avoid repeating unaccepted words back. So yeah, they have set ways of saying things. So they're acting like, oh, this is free, you can say what you want, but you actually can't, because you're censoring yourself. I was censoring myself. Everybody, you could watch other people. So now what happened was, eventually I realised that I was watching other people being brainwashed, being controlled. That is the point when I woke up to it and realised that I was not okay with it. And there was a 1 week where we were having this women's group call, and then somebody was talking about Jews and Palestine and her sensitivity around the topic. And then the woman and someone else in the group who was like really into this stuff started coaching her and in basically trying to force her to talk about it when she was saying that she wasn't ready to talk about it yet. And then they started saying like, oh, it sounds like you need they have these like acronyms, I can't remember what it was exactly, but let's say that you need a CCM or something. And the other one were piping up like, yeah, you really need a CCM or whatever. I just made that up, but it was like something like that. It stands for something like some kind of like deeper emotional process or something. And then they started trying to, and she was like, no, I don't think I'm ready yet and stuff, and trying to like basically just stick up for herself and carry on what she was saying. And then they were like, well, trying to like coerce her into it, like, oh, if you do this for yourself, you never know what ripple effect it will have on the wider community if you go into healing this for yourself and you start talking about this stuff. But it's true. We know these things are true, and that's why it was probably a successful manipulation technique. So then I started trying to say like something to balance it out, because it was getting really weird and she was getting really like pushed around by this point, and I could see it happening, because I can see that happening to someone else, which I maybe wouldn't see happening to myself. When it's happening to someone else in front of me, then yeah, I've seen that done before in my childhood to somebody else in my family. So I know what that looks like, and I know how evil that is, and that I'm not okay with it. So that's when I sort of like shut down or need to escape that situation, or because I couldn't speak up as a child. So then I was like trying to like think, what am I going to say here? What am I going to do? And then I tried to make a comment that brought some normality back to the conversation. And then they turned on me and started like trying to force me to talk about my views on the topic, which I was definitely not ready to, or willing to do, and wasn't in the like, I don't have any like insights to the topic that I would have been able to talk about, and I wasn't feeling safe to be able to share my feelings about it. It's making my throat really itchy now, because probably I'm getting distressed thinking about being in that group at that point. It was so scary. Oh my goodness. So they were basically like bullying me instead of bullying her, and I was sitting shaking, and then I was thinking like, I don't want to lose my voice, I want to say something. So I was trying to stick up for her. Then the woman and the other lady turned on me, and they were really just pushing me, just saying like, well, what is it you're not saying and stuff like that. And then and then the other lady came back in, who had been the one that raised the topic reluctantly in the first place. And I interrupted her to say like, well, that wasn't what I meant. And I believe in interrupting, okay? So like, if someone is going on about something and it would be easy enough to sort of like clarify, So this is something I learned from Nonviolent Communication, which is NVC by Michael Rosenberg, is it? Anyway, it's something I've studied before, and it's really good. And one of the things that he says is that, in some of our cultures we've been told not to interrupt, but actually it's better to interrupt in certain situations. So anyway, I purposefully interrupted the other lady to like clarify something, and then the woman who'd brought me into this cult thing was like, we don't do that, we do not interrupt. So I was just I was shut down by her, so I wasn't allowed to sort of like clarify or say that wasn't it or whatever. And she was like, oh, we listen, we don't interrupt. And then when it came back to me again, I said, well, they were like, well, is there anything you want to say? And I was saying, I didn't like it when you told me that I'm not allowed to interrupt. And then she said, oh, what does that... She said something like, what does that bring up for you? You didn't like it when we told you not to interrupt. So basically trying to coach me as if I'm not allowed to just say, I don't want to be told not to interrupt. You know, I have a right to speak when I want to. And if I wanted to interrupt, then I did it on purpose. And I didn't like it when you told me that I wasn't allowed to interrupt the other person when she's talking about me. So they turned that into like this is a manipulation tactic used in cults, which is like they're trying to coach you on the objection as if it's your problem. So as if it was my fault that I didn't like being told that I shouldn't interrupt. I was being told like, oh, you know, what problem do you have that you don't like to be told not to interrupt? Like, you know, kind of instead of letting me say this thing, which was actually a boundary I wanted to state, which is that if I want to interrupt, then I'll interrupt if I think that's appropriate. Then I was being told, oh no, so you didn't like... So like being asked to reflect on why I was having a boundary. And then it was just totally gross, and I could see it happening and how coercive it was. So then after that group call that night, then I went online and looked up like how to leave a cult, even though luckily I hadn't actually joined it because whatever reason, that's probably a different conversation, that I hadn't actually got sucked into it fully. So I managed to like look up some tips about how to actually get the beep out of there, and I did leave it and didn't go back anymore. But it's really sad for me because I've never had the chance to talk about my anger or express my feelings ever since then, because that was my space where I was starting to do that, and I still didn't have an alternative space to do that. I'll just try and say a few bits. I don't know if this video is gonna keep going. It seems to not have said that my phone's full, so that's good. Like the woman who brought me into the cult, she was doing this really, really extreme diet where she only ate grape juice. And it went on for months. And then she used to talk about it and say like, and she looked really ill, by the way. And like, she used to talk about it like, if I had this thought where I really wanted such a thing, and that was my gremlin. And then like, they have these weird ways of talking about different desires and like analysing them as if they shouldn't want other food, and that this is all part of this like healing or spiritual journey that they're going on, that they want other food apart from grape juice. And it went on for like months. And like that was one thing. What else weird was going on? She said when she went to America, she must have been more than once, but when she went to like a workshop over there, they just worked them. They were just like, oh, but she made out as if it was like she said it in an idealistic way, as if like, oh, we were all working together as a big group, like doing all this cooking and cleaning. We worked for 12 hours without having any break or going to the toilet or anything. And she was saying as if this was like so cool because we didn't realise how much time had passed, but I know I couldn't have done that because I need a lot of breaks. And it's actually it's sad really, because it's a method used in cults where they work people. They what's it called? It's like labour. What do you call it? I don't know, but anyway, use of labour. So they're exploiting labour of the members. And then another thing I wanted to say. About thought-stopping cliches. This is actually the main thing I was going to talk about originally, but I'm just going to touch on it briefly because my throat is really itchy and hurting now. The thought-stopping cliches are these kind of stupid comments you get so that you're not allowed to say certain things. So it's very common in cults, but it's very common in like any controlling situation. So if you try and like raise an objection or just state an opinion that's not the acceptable one to that group, then you get shut down by these thought-stopping cliches. Let me think if I can remember any of the ones they used to use. It was very like prevalent. There was a lot of it going on in in those groups, part of that thing. Anyway, I'm tired, and I'm going to just end the video here because I'm quite uncomfortable and I'm in pain and my throat is hurting. So I hope that was an interesting insight to get started on the topic. And yeah, bye for now.